Right, so Discovery Channel contacted us, and this was just a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the documentary's name, um, but they contact us and they say they want to bring Michael Phelps out. Now, for those of you that don't know who Michael Phelps is, he's won more gold medals at the Olympics than any other athlete. He's a swimmer. So they come up with this weird idea, and it's kind of desperation stuff from Discovery's perspective because, they've done all this over and over and over. Air jaws here, air jaws there, shark attack here, shark attack there. And I don't even watch it myself, honestly, because I believe that it's just, well, for a person like myself who knows great white sharks and sharks, I just find these documentaries exceedingly tedious to watch. And, you know, scientists on these documentaries just make complete asses of themselves because, science is something where if you want to know, if you come up with a theory, you come up with a test or a protocol that you use, and you do it 100 times because you're trying to disprove your theory. So you can't do that on a documentary. When we did the BBC shoot, that was scientific because it was 7 months of just observation. And that is when you learn the real life of the animal. You go into the natural history of the animal, the biology of the animal, and you actually learn. And, that is how it's supposed to be done. But of course, you must understand Discovery Channel and History Channel and, National Geographic and many other channels I've worked with from different parts of the world. It's about entertainment. And of course, they don't have the budget to come and sit out there for months on end to make a documentary. And that's only 52 minutes long. So they want us to do a specific thing. And in this documentary, I know it sounds completely silly, it is, but they're bringing in a celebrity, so they use a celebrity to attract attention to the show. So it's not a real shark show. There's shark action in the show, but there's two main things they want to do on the show. It's like compare the swimming speed of Michael Phelps to a great white shark. It's like me saying, I mean, there's no reason behind it. It's completely nonsensical because it's like me saying I want to compare the speed of a cheetah to a tortoise, literally. I mean, you can't even, there's no comparison. If it was a situation where Michael Phelps could swim at 40 miles an hour kind of thing, and a great white could swim maybe up to 45 miles an hour, then you would have an interesting situation which you could test. But when Michael Phelps is swimming at, walking speed or jogging speed, and a great white shark is swimming as fast as a speedboat going across the water, there's no comparison. And there's two scientists on this particular project, nice guys. One of them was Tristan, he was one of my first interns actually, and another guy called Neil Hammerstag. And yeah, so it's Hollywood science. And like I say, when it comes down to Hollywood science, scientists make fools of themselves all the time. And not just with shark programs, with all sorts of documentaries, because it's entertainment. And, they've gone to study for years how to do science properly. And now they're on the boat and the camera's there, and suddenly we're gonna do an experiment now, and we're gonna try and prove this. You can't prove it in one experiment. You can prove nothing. And then the experiment is done, and suddenly it's like, oh, did you see that? Yeah, this is da 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 da, and it's complete rubbish. Okay, so anyway. And I know this because I've done the same documentaries. So I'm talking from real experience. So anyway, the guy, Donald, the producer, super nice guy, he's in contact with me and he says, is this possible? Can we compare like Michael Phelps swimming through water, and they did that with graphics. But we got to get a shark to be swimming as fast as possible. Now, nobody had ever done anything to see the real top speed of great white sharks, or had put anything together where you could really film and see the speed of these animals, you know. So I tried in the past with different methods, but I never succeeded. So we put together a project which was pretty clever. We put together a project where we used a wakeboard machine. So it's machine quite big and heavy, but you know, it's got wheels on it so you can wheel it around. It's like a very large lawnmower, about this, like a big lawnmower. And it's got an engine. You start it, petrol engine, and then it's got a drum, and which spools up, and you can control the speed by pulling a trigger. So it's designed that you put it on the ground, you anchor it with like this weird screw thing into the ground, you pull this line out, and it's a very strong line, and it's maybe 300 meters long, 400 meters long, you know, it can take a lot, probably 600 meters. I don't know how much sort of line was on the thing. And then you hit the gas and it pulls you up and you wakeboard, and it'll pull you and you can wakeboard for that half a kilometer or whatever it may be. So this wakeboard machine comes out, and that's we get that thing going. And the idea is this now. So we want to get the shark to chase something on the surface at top speed. So the wakeboarding machine is on our one boat, our big boat. And then we got a smaller boat, which is 300 to 400 meters away from the big boat. And my partner, Christo, my business partner, he's on the big boat. He's running things on the big boat, and that's where the wakeboarding machine is. And I'm on the smaller boat, and we work in the sharks. And on our smaller boat, we've also got a crew that fly drones, and they got this drone the size of a helicopter, this huge thing, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment just in this drone, and a generator running on the other boat. So it's a serious operation. Now the idea is that we have to get the shark to work the shark up and get it to start taking the baits. And the bait is, we work in the shark with a bait line, but the bait line is not attached to anything. It's attached to this rope, which is then attached to the big boat, which is upstream of us, directly upstream of us. And I'm standing on top of the roof, and we fly the drone. Now the drone is so big that it's only got 8 minutes airtime. So now we got to work the shark. So as soon as I think that this is a good shark to work with, I'm radioing the big boat, and they start up the wakeboard machine, and we had a code 1, 2, 3. So it was, if the shark started following it, first they'd often just follow the bait, and we put big baits on, big piece of tuna, etc. And we'd say, and we use seal decoys, and I could see the shark, they couldn't see the shark. So I'd say 1, and I'd see the shark following it, and I'd say 1, 1, and suddenly the shark starts following a bit faster. Then I'll say 2, and then they would pull the bait or the decoy faster. And then if I saw the shark starting to chase it, I'd say 3. And then sometimes the shark would like sort of lose interest, and I'll say 1. And then the shark catches up to it again, and then it's 2, 3. And I stood on that roof for days. My legs were numb. But we got it right, and we got the great white sharks eventually to chase the bait or the seal decoy like I've never seen it before. I mean, chasing it, that it's on the surface behind this thing, trying to catch it up, and the guys on the other boat are watching it, and they're cranking that spool as fast as it can, and that shark flies after it, and it looks like a speedboat going through the water, or a torpedo, because you see the shark's tail thrashing and water flying all over, and it's so fast that it could outrun the what do you call it, the wakeboarding machine. And we got it from the air, and we got it from the boats and everything, and it was almost an impossible thing to do, but we did it. And that is how we managed to get that footage if you've watched that documentary with Michael Phelps from the air, that is how we got the shark to chase it at full speed over a distance of, say, 400 meters, 300 meters, sometimes a bit further. And that had never been done before. Nobody had never done that before. Nobody had even tried it before. And again, it was a world first from our team. We've done so many world firsts when it comes to great white sharks. And then the other thing I wanted to do was the bite bite pressure of the shark on that shoot. And Michael Phelps, by the way, really enjoyed himself. Fantastic guy. The whole crew. I mean, it was a big crew. We had this drone crew that was a bunch of guys. I can't remember their name. Then the film crew, and we had my crew and backup crew. It was a big operation because it was seriously expensive. Michael Phelps was there for 1 week, and he got paid $100,000 a day. So it was not fooling around. This was expensive stuff. $100,000 a day just to be there on the boat, and first class flight. And it was him and his wife and his agent. So they're all being paid. I think his wife just came along for some super nice girl as well, just for the fun of it. But anyway, but Michael Phelps was so absorbed and he loved the sharks, and he came to me several times and he said great white sharks have been on his bucket list forever. He's always wanted to see them, and he couldn't believe that he was actually allowed to work with them. So he just wanted to hold the bait line all the time, and he was there, cool guy. So I wasn't on the boat. I was on the other boat, and the wind was coming up, and we had basically finished drone footage and shark chases. We had this one day that was just unbelievably successful. So the wind's coming up, and it's blowing up to, it's strong, but it's coming off shore, and the shore's only 700 meters away. But it's gusting up to, it's way over gale force. Gale force strength, but you're working off the back of the boat, so you're protected by the cabin and stuff. So Christo, he says, they're going to do this bite pressure test now. And it's the two scientists on the boat that are trying to set this thing up, and they're just not doing it right because they're not on the level that we are when it comes to working with great white sharks. So Christo's watching this, and he's watching this, and they got this thing out in the water, and it's got a bite meter on it, and it's like a sealed decoy thing, and the sharks come and sniff it, and the wind's increasing, and it's starting to go towards dark. The sun is almost on the horizon, and their filming permit only allowed them to film from sun up to sunset. And eventually Christo just gets irritated, and he says, listen, let me do this. Jesus Christ, let me sort this out. So he takes the bite cam out the water. I mean the bite pressure thing, not the bite cam, the bite pressure machine. And he just takes two small tuna heads, and he cable tied a tuna stick to the one side of it. I mean a tuna head to one side of it, and he cable ties a tuna head to the other side of it. And he throws it into the water, and he gives the rope to Michael Phelps. And that thing hardly hits the water, and the shark just goes, grabs that thing, and literally almost rips Michael Phelps off the boat. Now, he's not a small guy. He's a big guy, and he's fit and strong. But Krista tells me, Michael Phelps goes sliding across the deck, holding on this rope, and the shark is just munching that thing and rips it to pieces, basically. Doesn't break the machine. But they get the reading. They get a proper reading. And that just shows you the difference between a professional working with great white sharks and guys that don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they sit there for a couple of hours trying to get this shot, or try and get a shark to bite the bite meter, and Christo just does it in several minutes, 5 minutes, and got the shot. So yeah, that was a Michael Phelps shoot. Awesome bunch of guys, all of them. And we had a lot of fun. And, if you watch the documentary, then you know a little bit more about what happened behind the scenes. And we learned a lot because we had to, again, push our limits and think outside the box. And that is what is important when you're working with great white sharks. And this is a lesson for anybody out there that wants to work with great white sharks or is even working with great white sharks. Think outside the box and think like a great white shark. Always try to see the world through the shark's eyes. You know, if you only seen it from one dimension, okay, I'm going to put a bait in the water and I'm yanking it across the water and the shark's going to chase it. You can't do that because you must remember the shark knows that whatever you got in the water is not alive. That shark knows that the big tuna we put in the water is not alive. It knows it's dead. The shark knows that that seal decoy is, if it's just floating there, it knows that it's not alive. It's just going to come up and bump it. And so you got to try and see the world to the shark's eyes, because there's a tuna in the water and it just starts moving away. Now that confuses the shark, because the shark knows the tuna is not supposed to move away. And that actually can put the shark off. So the shark will get suspicious and turn away from it. Or the seal decoy. It's not alive and the shark knows it, but it moves. And when it does that, the shark reacts to it in a cognitive manner. And most of the time the shark will just rather leave it alone, because it's just suddenly there floating and next thing is moving and it's dead. So why is he going to chase it? It doesn't make any sense. So you got to stimulate the sharks, and you got to find the right sharks that will eventually just say, screw this, I'm going for it. You know, that tuna, I don't care if it's dead or alive, I'm going for that tuna, or I'm going for that thing because it appears to be moving, and now the shark is worked up. So it all depends on how you stimulate the shark, with how much chum you put in the water, how you work the shark with a bait line around the boat to get it into a attack mode, where it starts dropping its inhibitions, for want of a better term, and then it goes through it. So that is an important lesson for anybody that is interested in working with great white sharks. Think outside the box and think like a great white shark. Learn to think like a great white shark, and then you manage to do the impossible, as we have done so many times.